But I want to take a close look at this decision overnight in Germany to reverse a fairly significant decision to get rid of nuclear power in that country. That decision has been changed. They're dealing with the economic reality and energy security. And to do that, let's bring in my panel, the Australian's columnist Jennifer Oriel and Executive Director of the Menzies Research Centre, Nick Cater. Nick, before we jump into this issue in Germany, I want to ask you very quickly to touch on the speech, of course, by Liz Truss. You know, I was elected as a Conservative, I will govern as a Conservative. I said at the top of the show, hallelujah to that. But also now the departure of Boris Johnson. How do you see things playing out?
Look, I think the fact is, no matter how good she is, she's got a very tough challenge. Far harder, I think, than Margaret Thatcher had when she first came to power. She's got to select a cabinet of people who are behind her in terms of policy. She's got to avoid the trap of just rewarding people, you know, for friendship or help along the way. She hasn't got any time to waste, you know. I mean, Margaret Thatcher came to power, as you know, after the winter of discontent. I think Britain's about to go into a winter of discontent, and she's really got to hit the deck running.
We know she's on her way to Scotland. She'll have her audience with the Queen. She'll then be formally installed at that point as Prime Minister. She's now only the Tory leader in practical effect. Boris Johnson, he has resigned and he's certainly given his last media spray at Downing Street. Have a listen.
And like Cincinnatus, I am returning to my plough.
It was typical Boris there, Jennifer, wasn't it?
Yes, a lot of dramatic flair from Boris on his way out, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of that if he doesn't make a new career as a thespian. But I think one of the things that Nick brought up, and that's absolutely right, is that Liz Truss is facing a Britain in a world of pain. And I think that's been driven in large part by very poor investment decisions on the part of governments over some time, over-investment in big government and renewable energies, under-investment in cheap, reliable energy, and Britons are now facing up to an 80% increase in energy in the year. So it's a very, very bad situation for them. And I dare say that they could be facing worse conditions than Thatcher because they don't have as many economic levers to pull to get them out of this crisis.
Nuclear came up just on this energy point in the Parliament today. A bit of mockery from the government towards the opposition. Let's have a listen.
The Shadow Minister is looking at the nuclear option. No one likes a reactor like a reactionary, Mr. Speaker. No one likes a reactor like a reactionary.
Well, the Prime Minister might leave the glib lines to one side and do a bit of his homework, because overnight in Germany, pretty significant backflip. They are now halting their plans to phase out the last two working nuclear power plants. Instead of being mothballed, they're coming out, they'll be used. They're very concerned, obviously, about the grid and the issues of gas and Russia. Nick, why on earth would you mock, as a Prime Minister, the idea of having a rational adult debate about a technology that's increasingly being used right around the world? And if you care about emissions, it is zero emissions, full baseload.
Because we're not having a grown-up conversation in this country. We haven't done at all for years. And what's happened in Europe is, for the last 20 years, since the European Union issued a directive, they've been heading towards this heavy target of renewable energies, under the myth, under the delusion that you can actually power industrial economies with wind and solar alone. Now, they're just realising that's not possible. Now they've got problems. 40% of their gas, of course, comes from Russia, and they're losing that pretty quickly in countries like Germany, and they're realising they've got to do something fast, and that's going to happen here. We are heading down that same crazy path where we sort of imagine that we can live on renewables alone. We cannot. It is not possible, and the sooner Albanese and Chris Bowen wake up to this, the better. They really have to, because, you know, we cannot go to phase out 60% of our coal by 2030, which is what AEMO is saying we will have to do, and then all of it by 2043, and keep the lights on. It's not possible technically. It's just not possible in engineering terms. It's not possible economically.